Xenoblade is known for having some of the most exploitable systems of all time, with some of the most broken party members in RPGs, and with Xenoblade X Definitive Edition on the horizon, I could think of no better time than to finally create a video like this discussing the most broken party members or characters in the Xenoblade series. Whether hitting damage caps, one-shotting enemies, or trivializing even challenge modes, these characters are the best of the best. If you've been following my channel for a while, then you're probably aware I've always been at the forefront of making gameplay guide videos for the series, and showing off fun and broken builds to break the games, and over the years I think the ones in this video are probably the strongest the series has to offer as a whole. And if you haven't been following this channel for years, well, now is a great time to start. I'd love to hit 100,000 subscribers soon, and every little bit helps, plus I'll be making plenty of new guides for Xenoblade Chronicles X. Let's get into it! If I were to define a criteria for what I would classify as the strongest or the most broken characters, I would say that would likely consist of two factors. The first is obviously how easily a party member or character can completely trivialize and break the game or beat content with little effort. Strong characters should have no trouble with the content of the game and should be able to easily be an important contributing member to team compositions and be consistently one of the best options you can bring. The second criteria is going to be related but somewhat different, but how strong is the character relative to the other characters in the game itself? Sometimes a character can be really strong, but the system is so exploitable that almost any character can almost be just as strong, that it is hard to really quantify one character in specific as the strongest or most broken. This list will feature characters that have unique properties that make them very strong that other characters in the game cannot replicate. And pretty much all of these characters listed I personally consider to be the best character in their respective game. At number 5, we have Rein from Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Specifically Definitive Edition in this case, thanks to the buffs he received in that game. Rein is a tank-class character who has strong defensive stats across the board, and as such, he is usually played in a way where you don't have to worry about positioning or managing aggro with him, which is helpful if you go for a more offensive build, since you likely are going to want to have the aggro anyway. In the original game, Rein was a character who had pretty high burst damage despite being a tank, but longer cooldowns prevented him from having the absolute strongest damage compared to some of the other DPS characters. In Definitive Edition, he gained access to the level 12 arts, which shortened cooldowns and increased damage ratios even more, giving him even higher burst damage and the ability to use this burst damage even more often. This allows him to nuke enemies very quickly with the Berserker Aura, an aura that increases his strength a massive 240% at the cost of 25% defense, and which you can easily achieve 100% uptime on. Magnum Charge, which allows him to charge up the power of his next art, and of course Sword Drive, the single strongest art in the entire game. He also has great synergy with the other strong party members in the game, being a fixture on the topple-locking teams and general DPS compositions with Shulk and Dunban, and sometimes Melia. On top of this, he has an extremely strong Daze art that always has the level 10 cooldown in Definitive Edition thanks to it kind of being bugged, and with the lowered cooldown on his topple art, he can now solo topple lock all but a few enemies in the entire game, which is something no other character can do. Considering topple locking is probably the strongest and easiest to exploit strategy in this game, this makes Rein extremely strong and very valuable in every single team composition. He can even do this at level 1 if you can get the setup going, and I think this utility along with his strong offensive damage output and ability to also be a tank that probably won't die makes him easily the strongest character in Definitive Edition. Now as a whole, I'd say Xenoblade 1 is the least broken game in the series, which is why even with the strong exploit of topple locking and his strong damage, I'd still say he's only number 5. Plus, other characters can be fairly strong in Definitive Edition as well, with Shulk, Dunban, and Melia all being fairly strong characters in their own right too. That said, Rein definitely combines most of the strongest elements of the game into one kit, and that makes him worthy of a spot on this list. At number 4, we have Noah from Xenoblade 3. Now this was an interesting one, and I considered whether he should actually be on the list or not, since most of the 6 party members in Xenoblade 3 have nearly the exact same potential given how the class system works. There are 2 big exceptions to this, of course. The Ouroboros forms are actually unique to each character, in which case I would say that Noah has the best one of these. However, that is not going to be the main reason I am ranking Noah here, because Noah is an exception in another way in that he is the only character who has access to Lucky 7. So Lucky 7 is essentially Noah's unique class he can activate with a full talent gauge, and it has unique effects depending on if he is an attacker, defender, or healer class. The strongest of these is going to be the attacker class in a post-game context, as it has a massive critical hit rate, a crit recharge positional that allows you to easily charge the talent gauge, and very high damage scaling based on these critical hits. Your talent art is also a pretty much universal full combo attack that ends with a very powerful smash that can very easily one-shot and deal millions of damage to any enemy in the game with the right setup, and it hits basically everything on the field. A shackle ring in particular will allow you to basically use 5 different arts into the talent art and gain absolutely massive damage that can trivialize challenge mode and some of the strongest enemies in the game alike without needing super strong setups on other characters. In addition, if you want to be more defensive and don't feel like you have the best setup, you can also make yourself invincible with Lucky 7 and the stasis effect from the Troubadour talent art. And you can even use your Ouroboros form and Resonant Flag to pass this invincibility to your entire party, leading to some very funny situations where it's basically impossible to lose since your entire party has the invincibility buff that has been stasis to last forever. Between strong damage and invincibility, this class can basically do it all. Now, in the Super Post game, this isn't super ridiculously busted compared to some of the other things you can necessarily do, but it is one of the easiest ways to trivialize the game, and it is something completely unique to Noah, and it is still one of the strongest strategies available to you. Furthermore, as mentioned, I also think Noah has the strongest Ouroboros form, which is another point in his favor. It has strong crit damage, power charge, and a very strong talent art as well. All around, while Noah doesn't have a ton over the other characters in Xenoblade 3, he's still able to break the game in half both with his own unique class and with many of the other classes in the game, and for that reason, I think he's still easily worth a spot on this list. And for what it's worth, the Defender and Healer Lucky 7 are still really powerful and strong as well, just because they're unique classes again and also have some pretty unique skills. At number 3, we have Rex from Future Redeemed. So ironically enough, I don't think Rex is quite as strong as Noah overall as far as trivializing the game, but relative to the rest of the party members in Future Redeemed, he is absurdly powerful and broken. His damage is so high, it is an actual strategy to just let him die and have other characters set up to instantly revive him so he can do it again. He has basically everything you could want in an offensive damage dealer. A very high critical hit rate, stacking additive damage up to 150% when landing a critical hit, completely ignores enemy defense when landing a critical hit, boosted critical damage of 50%, which is a separate multiplier to the other stacking additive damage multiplier, a free 20% critical hit rate on top of that and another 50% critical hit damage boost, and just for the heck of it, another 150% damage on top of that when an ally is low on HP. Oh, and he has the awesome double spinning edge art, which hits 4 times, has a high critical hit rate, and recharges the art 30% for each time it lands a critical hit. A nice homage to double spinning edge in Xenoblade 2, but somehow even significantly more broken here. His damage is absolutely absurd. Even without having a great tank to take aggro off him, he will still be putting in the work to easily do the most damage, and if you can get him in a chain attack, he can absolutely do some massive damage and has some great synergy with other party members inside a chain attack to do multiple millions of damage in singular hits with the right setups. It's kind of absurd just how good his skills are for damage in general. He also has both a topple and launch built into his kit if he wasn't good enough already, because obviously he just needs to be as strong as possible. His Unity skill with Glimmer is also fantastic for providing crazy good synergy with his kit, and for the party with another 20% critical hit boost and another 50% critical hit damage boost. His skill with Matthew is also very strong in the right situations, and you can get some absolutely massive chain attack damage if everything lines up perfectly. I feel like a lot of my guides for this game all involved just doing what you could to get into a chain attack so Rex could carry, and a lot of the other characters' main contributions were just there to support Rex. He really is a case of one character just having absolutely cracked damage compared to everyone else and being super strong because of it. For that reason, I think he is easily worthy of having the number 3 spot on the list, as he deserves. I love Rex. At number 2, we have Poppy Cutie Pie. Now, technically in Xenoblade 2, the drivers are the party members, but most of the unique customization aspects are tied to Blades more than anything, so I feel like it makes more sense in this case to say it's Poppy Cutie Pie that is the strongest. Especially because she is unique to Tora anyway, and it's much harder to rank other party members when it's usually the Blades being the main factor in their strength. Poppy Cutie Pie is essentially a master of all trades as a character. She can do almost anything better than most anyone else in the game. She has by far the best break art in the entire game, which leads to all of the other features of the combat system, and it's one of her absolute strongest aspects. It is what allows you to basically unlock and take full advantage of fusion combos, in addition to, of course, stun locking enemies as well. She can be any element you want. She has effectively 6 aux core slots, which can include effects normally only reserved for accessories or other unique effects that other characters cannot have as aux cores. She has extremely high base damage along with a high critical hit rate. She has very high survivability with master mods, and she has some of the strongest specials in the game with pierce effects on all of them, except for her first level 1 special, but even still. She even has the ability to launch to follow up her strongest break art in the game, allowing her to easily stunlock enemies without allowing them to move, along with some general, just easy party support, or with the support of the other Poppy forms. While I don't think she's the absolute fastest on some of the challenge mode missions anymore compared to where she used to be, she is still easily the most consistent option for beating a lot of the hardest challenges in the game, with her only real weakness being Tora's AI kind of not being great and just kind of having only a 50% chance to use driver combos sometimes, which is a little annoying. A problem easily solved if you play or control her yourself. For having such incredible utility while also being one of the strongest damage dealers in the game, it's easy to see why she's an easy number 2 slot, since she can basically do anything and make a lot of the other blades obsolete with all of her really strong options. Anything that can be said about Cutie Pie I've probably already said on this channel before. She is one of the strongest characters in RPGs, period, with unmatched versatility. You can pretty much set her up to do whatever and she will always be viable and useful to you in some way. Her 3-hit break art means she will always is going to be the ultimate enabler in the game, and you really cannot go wrong with using Poppy Cutie Pie. If the lower damage cap of Xenoblade 2 didn't exist, she'd somehow be even more absurd and broken, as you can see when I modded the game to do just that. Whether using chain attacks, damage over time, or anything else, Poppy Cutie Pie can truly do it all, and is almost better than anyone else. And yet somehow, she still isn't even the number 1 spot on this list, because there is a character even more broken and even more versatile than her in this series. So, the number 1 spot for the absolute strongest character in Xenoblade Chronicles is Cross from Xenoblade Chronicles X. So for every other character on this list, you at least have some reason or some purpose that you may want to use other party members. That does not exist in Xenoblade X. There is absolutely no reason you ever need to use any character but Cross after you get past the early game. Remember when I said Cutie Pie can do almost anything better than almost any other character? Well, Cross absolutely can do everything better than anyone else in X. He has access to every skill in the game, every weapon in the game, every art in the game, and you can customize him freely with these weapons and arts and skills. Not only that, but this is in a system as fundamentally broken as Xenoblade X, meaning Cross can absolutely break the game in half in like 6 or 7 different ways with every weapon possible. He can one-shot the absolute strongest enemies with ease. He has like 4 different potential ways of making himself basically immune to all damage, including perfect evasion with Ghostwalker, being able to reflect enemy attacks, being able to raise his defense to perfect values, being able to make himself invincible if you really want to do that. He can use basically any weapon to great effect. He can provide extremely powerful support effects to other Crosses in online play, including perma-topple locking if you really wanted to bring that back from Xenoblade 1. The list goes on and on and on. Out of every single RPG I have ever played, Cross is by far the strongest RPG character I know of gameplay-wise. I don't think I've ever seen a character more broken than Cross, and I'm not sure I ever will. He truly has unmatched versatility, being able to take advantage of absolutely everything broken in X. He so far outmatches every other potential party member that it isn't even funny. No other characters in X have anywhere near the same level of skill and art customization. And in most other RPGs, you can't trivialize the game with a singular character in such a vast variety of different ways. Most of the Xenoblade X post-game is just a sandbox for different builds rather than any kind of challenge whatsoever, just because of how absurdly strong Cross is as a character. Cross is such a strong character that he makes even the big robots look tame by comparison, as he's much stronger than they could ever hope to be, and one of the main reasons ground combat is stronger than scale combat. Overdrive is one of the most absurd mechanics in any game in general, and Cross takes advantage of it and everything else the game has to offer to the fullest. For this reason, I truly believe Cross to easily be the strongest party member in Xenoblade and easily the number 1 character on this list. And that is why I wanted to make this list, because as you know, you all get the chance to play as this monster again in just 1 week time, basically. And I am looking forward to that, and I hope you are as well. I think that is going to cover it for this video. This is just an idea I had for a really long time. If you enjoyed this video or learned something from this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Like I said, I would really appreciate it, and please do look forward to all of these Xenoblade X combat guides I'm going to create, because I'm going to show you all the ways that you can make Cross as broken as possible, so please do look forward to that. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you back here soon.